Moon complete phases, from blue moons to supermoons and more. Earth's continuous companion is the moon. Up there in the sky, it changes from a disk to a curled sliver and back again. On some evenings, it vanishes. From where did the moon come? Our sole natural satellite is the moon. We may occasionally catch a fleeting glimpse of the moon, yet the moon is Earth's lifeblood. Although there are differing opinions among scientists, it is generally agreed upon that the moon was formed when an asteroid the size of Mars collided with Earth billions of years ago. About 240,000 kilometers separate Earth and the moon. There would be enough room for 30 Earths between them. It cuddles a bit closer at times and a little farther away at others. What are the moon's phases? The moon is gleaming in the sky like a lantern when you look up at it. The moon is reflecting sunlight rather than producing light. The moon's 9.5-day cycle consists of 8 phases: new moon, waxing crescent, waxing gibbous, first quarter, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, and declining crescent. The moon's orbit around the Earth is what causes the phases. Sunlight illuminates half the Earth and half the moon at all times, according to a NASA explanation. But as the moon orbits around the Earth, at some points in its orbit, the sunlit part of the moon can be seen from the Earth, and at other points, we can only see the parts of the moon that are in shadow. A new moon appears as though it has vanished because it is shadowed. The fingernail-shaped brilliance that occurs as the moon gets fuller is called a waxing crescent, even though the moon appears half in light and half in shadow. The first quarter is when it is a quarter of the way around Earth's orbit. Gibbous waxing comes next. The term gibbous is Latin in origin and describes the humped form of the moon's illuminated region. The triumphal full moon follows when the sun is opposite the moon, with Earth in the center, illuminating the entire face. After the full moon, the cycle continues. Waning gibbous indicates that the moon's humped shape is still present but that the daylight portion is retreating. In the third quarter, the moon is 3/4 of the way through its orbit around the Earth, although it still looks like a half moon. Once more, the waning crescent is the fingernail, but before it accomplishes the fleeting act of becoming a new moon, the lighted portion of the moon keeps getting smaller. How many times do the full moons occur? The timing of full moons can change since the moon's phase cycle doesn't precisely correspond with the dates on our calendars here on Earth. A full moon occurs once every 29.5 days. That implies we receive 12 full moons in most years. However, we receive 13 full moons in a calendar year around every 2.5 years. What is the origin of the full moon names? Each full moon that occurs during the year has a unique name. The wolf moon, worm moon, flower moon, strawberry moon, hunter moon, and others are all known in the United States. Many of these names come from the Old Farmer's Almanac. Since the late 1700s, the almanac has published astronomy, planting advice, and weather forecasts. A digital version is now available. The moon names we use in the Old Farmer's Almanac come from Native American, Colonial American, or other traditional North American sources passed down through generations. The publication states, names for full moons vary by culture, geography, and custom. For instance, the full moon in March is frequently called the worm moon. When earthworms begin to reactivate in the spring after months of winter, the almanac attributes its name to the warming of the soil. This moon is also known as the sugar moon, goose moon, eagle moon, or snow crust moon. It's a poetic way to consider the relationship between full moons and the year's changing seasons. What is a supermoon? Contrary to its name, a supermoon is a mild phenomenon. It occurs during a full moon when the moon is in or close to the perigee, the closest point in its orbit to Earth. The moon is roughly 251,000 miles from Earth at its furthest point. According to NASA, it is approximately 226,000 miles away at perigee. A supermoon moon won't catch your eye like a gigantic pizza, even though it may appear bigger and brighter than a full moon. There should be 3 or 4 supermoons a year. Although the phrase supermoon is not official, it sounds fantastic to say something like super harvest blood moon. What is a blue moon? The second moon in a month with 2 full moons is the most widely used definition of a blue moon. Sadly, this does not imply that the moon resembles a cosmic blueberry. A blue moon occurs around every 2 to 3 years, however. The phrase once in a blue moon is used to describe something that doesn't happen very often. Even if you were to win the lotto once in a blue moon, you would be extremely wealthy. Fun fact, there will never be a blue moon in February because the month is too short. Make sure to mark May 31st, 2026 on your calendar for the next blue moon. A lunar eclipse. What is it? For a lunar eclipse to occur, the moon must be full. Additionally, condition where the moon is partially or completely darkened by the Earth's shadow. For this to occur, the sun must be on the other side of our planet from the moon. We also get a full moon that way. Because of a peculiarity in the moon's orbit that enables it to avoid Earth's shadow, we don't receive one every month. When Earth's shadow completely covers the moon, it is known as a total lunar eclipse. Only a portion of the moon is veiled during a partial lunar eclipse. A blood moon is another name for a lunar eclipse. Because the sunlight filters through Earth's atmosphere during an eclipse, the moon can take on a crimson color, which is how that descriptive name originated. NASA maintains a list of lunar eclipses that includes the types, dates, and areas where they are visible. On March 14, 2025, there will be a total lunar eclipse. Parts of the Pacific, the Americas, Europe, and Africa will see it. On September 7th, a second total lunar eclipse is scheduled, with a preference for Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. Are the tides affected by a full moon? The moon is a key factor in the intricate functioning of tides. The dance of the Earth and Moon indicates how the two bodies respond to one another. The masses of ocean water on our planet stretch out toward the moon and on the other side of the Earth, resembling a squashed ball due to the moon's gravitational influence. We refer to this as the tidal force. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration explains the moon's and ocean bulges' current state. Your area of the planet goes across each of these bulges every day as it rotates. A high tide occurs when you're inside one of the bulges. A low tide occurs when you're not in one of the bulges. The sun's gravitational pull, wind, land masses, and weather affect tides and their intensity. The tides are affected by both new and full moons. When the moon is in opposition to the sun and the Earth is in the center, the full moon occurs. When the moon is between Earth and the sun, it is said to be new. In both cases, the gravitational pull of the sun is added to the gravitational pull of the moon on Earth, causing the oceans to bulge a bit more than usual, according to NOAA. High tides are a little higher and low tides are a little lower than average. We call this phenomenon a spring tide. It alludes to the idea of breaking forth rather than the season. Does the moon have a dark side? Although Pink Floyd's music may give you the impression that the invisible side of the moon is constantly dark, this is untrue. There isn't a constant black side to the moon, although there may be areas where the sun isn't shining. We see the same craters and landscapes because the moon's side always faces Earth. This is known as the man on the moon. The moon's far side, as opposed to its dark side, is a better way to characterize the other side.